With the early stretch of American circuits in the rearview mirror, the drivers have traveled across the Atlantic and unloaded at the Green Hell, a circuit that requires perfection, a place where even the smallest mistake can instantly end your race. Who is brave enough to conquer the Nürburgring? Let's find out as we get ready to watch Round 7 of the IMSA Vintage series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joey Atterbury, and with me in the booth today is Craig King. Behind the scenes is our director, Adam Lindgren, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. With a track that's over 15 miles long and 150 plus turns, it's easy to get lost here. Let's take a closer look at this monumental circuit with our track guide.
Welcome to the Nürburgring. Nicknamed the Green Hell by three-time F1 world champion Sir Jackie Stewart, it is often regarded as the greatest test of a driver anywhere on the planet. Just looking at the stats will tell you why. While the combined version holds a swath of choices, they all include 100-plus corners and range between 14 and 16 miles, or 24 to 26 kilometers in length. Add to that roughly 1,000 feet in elevation change over the course of the lap, and it's easy to see what's so impressive about it. Simply memorizing the course is over half the battle for drivers, let alone being fast. It goes without saying that the Nordschleife portion is dangerous. Many fast corners lack runoff, there's blind apexes everywhere, and in a couple cases, even modern cars will get airborne. The list of famous turns is pretty lengthy, but some of the more notorious are places such as Fluke Lots, Miss Hit Miss, Bravery Corner, and of course, the ever-iconic Carousel. It's not just the places where you have to move the wheel to get attention too. The Dottinger Hoa stretches for more than 1.5 miles in length. However, that isn't even digging into the Grand Prix portion of the circuit. Much more open and safer in nature, it's no less challenging from a technical standpoint. Passing is still surprisingly hard in most cars, and corners such as the Schumacher S can spit you into the barrier if you don't respect the curbs. Events such as the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring offer drivers of many skill levels the chance to tackle this behemoth, and still draws gigantic grids to this day. Many race fans consider this the mecca of road racing, and any driver who is able to push the limits here often quickly garners their respect.
One of the most legendary circuits in the entire world. Craig, this is a big one.
This is a big one, Joey. How do I explain Norse? Look at that track map. Well, Ozzy said it best last time IMSA Vintage came here. Expect the unexpected. This is the mother of all tracks, and it likes to bring out drivers who are skilled at the track and hunt down the green hell every week on Sim. But the GTPs are going to love the ability to have so much downforce and grip around the corners. but it comes with the trade-off of having to avoid the raised curves. We usually talk about trying not to upset the Nissan with hitting the bumps and curves. Well, at Nords, the curves are higher than on modern day tracks. There's a saying, if it's grey, it's okay. Some of those curves have flat tops and decide to be used, like at Brüchen, but you go too much over and you catch the gravel. With the GTOs, it's interesting. This week, the drivers been playing it safe with either a safe setup or a looser setup, and that's a little bit more pointing. The old saying is, loose is fast. Audi drivers will be looking to come in to find the right lines and speed through some of those high-speed corners, like at Swedenkrust and Mutt Curve, which will require braking to control the balance of the cars. Now, due to the race length today, multi-class shouldn't exist in theory, unless a car is out of track position due to pit lane start or getting damaged. So the race is almost two different races at once. But for the Nissans, going past the Audis, overtaking mid-corners will be a no-no today. So expect some patience from the drivers. And Joey, it's going to be great fun. Survival is the key. Expect the overtakes done on the straights, if you get there. And of course, once again, expect the unexpected.
That is what the Nürburgring is about. Expect the unexpected. You never know what's going to lurk behind the next turn, especially if there's some problems on the racetrack. And we also have the points championship between the two different classes so far in this season. And let me tell you, in GTP, it is incredibly tight. Alexander Van de Sant currently leads just by a single point over Dustin Horoder. And then also Andreas Valenteus, Aitor Sintes Galindo. They are all only a single point out of second place or 2 points out of first place. Then we've got the little bit of a gap between the next battle. Brendan Lim and Fabian Jungbluth out here, and then a little bit of a gap too until a 4-car train. Timothy Reed, Jack Wells, Martin Krajcik, and Eric Neath. But not only do we have the GTPs, we've also got those GTOs.
Yeah, and look at this at the top. Friese and Salumba tied together, and they've been doing some great racing this week at the Green Hell. Van Hixie still there trying to catch up. And again, we talk about how there's always bunches of drivers at the bottom of the top 10 fighting. So to see the bunch of the drivers at the top, and even there with Lundberg, Porter, and Brain, it's just so refreshing. This season has been a new season for the GTOs, Joey, because remember, some of those former champions, they're not racing this season.
No, it's always just kind of a little bit of swing of things whenever the seasons come in and out there and who's going to be the fast guys up front. But one of the cool parts about this IMSA Vintage series that it is always packed. And what we're going to be doing here today, round 7 of 12, just over that mid-season hump there. A 40-minute race, as always, here in the IMSA Vintage Series. Open setup, so the drivers, they have tweaked and tuned on those cars as best as they need to fight the Nürburgring here. And no spare car, as always. You got to deal with that damage if you pick any up, and a drive-through penalty at 17x, disqualification at 25. But at the Nürburgring, it is all about avoiding those walls, and we officially have our starting grid lined up. It is the number 7 car of Alexander Van de Sant, your pole sitter here in GTP. Javier Soto starting second. Aaron Humphrey is going to be lined up in third, with Dustin Horoder in fourth. Jack Wells in fifth. Manuel Barres in sixth. Fabian Jungbluth in seventh. Fernando Serrato in eighth. Ivan Ayuso in ninth. And Sean Langton here in 10th. I believe you've got the next 10 over here, Craig.
Yeah, we got the next 10 here. Lars Olsen will be 11th. Then it's Martin Krajcik in 12th. That's the last of the qualifiers with times. Brandon Lim will be 13th, and then Hamilton Barrera Ruiz will be 14th. Then it's Ferenc Grau 15th, and Daniel Schulter in 16th. Seamus Power will be 17th, and Javier Del Olmo will be 18th. Florian Canola in 19th, and Antonio Alvarez in 20th.
Heads up, Audi.
We got a couple more GTP cars. Adrian Pulisic, AJ Roper, and Robert Plumley round out that class. And then really fast here, because we are rolling, Andreas Valenteus is your pole sitter in the GTOs. Noel Lundberg starting second. Seb Tixier back here in third. Arturas Kundelis starting fourth in class. Mickey Friesen is fifth in class, 28th overall. Andreas Schuster 29th, 6th in class. And Yarim Voxy here in 30th, 7th overall.
And then we just quickly get going. Then you see Valentajos with Blancos is there. 19 cars took the qualifying times here. Valentajos leading with Lundberg, Tixia, Kundelis, Friesen, Schuster, Van Hixie, Cloud, Kemp, and Blancos will be in that top. But I believe these cars are almost going as we just get to the second row. Gowden, Reed, Salinkas, Haycock, Porter, Bello, Jamie Hamill-Smith with Mark Gamak, Max Carpechin, and Josh Brain rounding out the fight of penultimate LaRose.
And we click on over to the final page of these GTO cars. Haruff, Sewer, Timmerman, Sproul, Shepard, Gonzalez, Paulik, and Mengwal round out the 28 GTO cars here. And let me tell you, it is 51 cars total is what is going to be taking the green flag. And you see the weather up on the top of your screen there. It is a nice day in Germany, the virtual Germany. 69-degree track temperature with an ambient of 66 degrees Fahrenheit. The wind is blowing at 12 miles an hour, but I wouldn't worry about it too much here at this layout and with these cars. But that Porsche pace car is going to be dipping off of the racetrack to driver's right. The field is going to be in the hands of that purple and white number 7 car. He's waiting patiently, and now he stands on the gas nice and early. We've got a green flag at the Nürburgring for the IMSA Vintage Series, and it is Van de Sant with a great launch and hole shot leading him down into turn 1. Such a tricky, tight turn. It looks like the top 5 and the majority of the GTP class have made it through. Let's check on those GTOs.
Check on these GTOs, and you see they are trying to go a little bit single file here, but one of the drivers looking to make some early moves. It looked like that was David Blancos. Yes, look at him, just trying to force it in. He's going to get a slowdown there with that mistake. Everybody at the moment making it clear through the first corner. Ever so tricky at the Yokohama S.
As the GTOs get started, the GTPs are about halfway through this miniature GP section of the racetrack. We actually don't do that full GP section. It's a shortened version and kind of plops you out 3/4 of the way around. Get down low here in this section, and this is still where all the pavement is nice and smooth. Riding on board here with the 5th place car of Beres chasing Burroder right in front of him, bound over the chicane, and I think from this left-hander right here, this is where the fun starts.
We get into the fun with the high-speed chicane. Now they come down into the Sabine Smits curve, and this is where they have to now start keeping patient. Track starting to narrow up because we're in the old school here, Joey. And you can just see, even though it's old school, some of these cars, they're doing things that you wouldn't do conventionally with a car around here modern day, because look how much speed they're carrying here. Through they go into Hatzenbach and then into the river. And almost, you can see, with single file, there is not a single space for these cars to make a move.
These cars make some incredible grip levels, and you couple that with the aggressive aerodynamics for the time period, and you're right, the speeds that they make, especially at a track such as the Nürburgring, up and over the crest there, and there you see is a great example of those aerodynamics at work. The car just glued down to the ground, and here is where things are really kind of just posturing for a position. The slipstream is so strong, and you see everybody closing up on each other. But here on the Nordschleife section, passing has to be coordinated. If you have two parties that are not trying to get a pass done, well, guess what? Most often than not, one of them ends up in a guardrail.
Yep, you saw there Sweden Chris down into Arenberg to hide the slow speed right-hander. That's almost a hairpin, and through the compression they've gone now, and this is where the track tightens up and a little bit tougher for these cars, and they are really now just making sure they don't go over the curves and make a course. Seb Tixia unfortunately crashed out, hitting Hatzenbach, just losing the rear of the car on the first lap. He's got major damage and had to tow, and that's in the GTOs. I mean, you're not missing anything there with these cars as they go through. They're coming down in a minute to a few corners, Joey, to one of my favorite parts of the track, which is miss, hit, miss. They'll do a quick left, then a right, and that second right after this, now they come to miss, hit, miss. Watch. Miss, miss, miss.
Well, he didn't seem to hit the second one there. That was a little bit of some tomfoolery, but I think that just the grip levels kind of saved the car through there. I was mentioning the aerodynamics, and you really drive those GTP cars however you see fit. And this is that car of Seb Tixier back here, that number 14. And you see he's got heavy damage on the front of his Audi GTO machine. So what started as a rough day in Lotus 49s earlier this morning continues here in the Audis at the Nürburgring. But this is your leader, Valenteus, and he's got Lundberg all over the tail, and include Kundelis in this party as well.
Yeah, it was quite interesting to see their qualifying times, because this is detached qualifying. They have to do it out of the sim, out of the race session. So it was interesting to see that Valenteus was 7/10 faster than Lundberg. Doesn't sound a lot, but when you look at how long this lap is going to be for these drivers, that's actually a pretty close lap time between these cars. And Valenteus cannot shake Lundberg. And with these straights that you're seeing right now, down into the Lada links they'll go, it really just helped that you have this ability to keep the car going. And like I was saying earlier, it does feel like Lundberg's gone for a little bit of a looser setup. I see that rear starting to kick out a bit more. Valenteus keeping it nice and steady.
And that might kind of tell tales for later in the race. Now, on the opening lap and really through the first half, you don't have to worry about too much tire wear, but the more you abuse your equipment, the less it's going to be there for you at the end of the race. So we'll just kind of have to keep an eye on how all of these cars can maintain their performance over the next 35 minutes as you get the idea of how much of a roller coaster ride this track really is, especially in such a fast car like these GTPs. The big old turbocharger pushing you along, the aero gluing you down to the racetrack, and then that racetrack is literally trying to buck you off of it, kind of like a Bronco every single turn. And through this kind of middle to final third of the track, it is very fast. It's where you find a lot of these corners that kind of come up and over crest, and then you dive back down. I mentioned the roller coaster. You better hang on through it.
You better hang out to right here, because we're just going to go to the replay. They hit Flatsgarden here. We're just going to have a quick look. This is earlier on in the lap, and it's Ferenc Grau. It looks like he's had a moment. I did see a car going off. Oh, he tried to save it and just caught the wall there. That's a very interesting one. I think he did just travel a bit too far on one of the flatter curves on the track, and that looked like what happened there. If we go back to the GTOs, they are coming now. This, Joey, you said it's the final third of the track. To me, this is the best part of the track. It's the driver's part of the track. All the way down here from Hoa Act, all the way down into Flatsgarten. It really is a question of just speed, ability, late apexes, then try and go in early, don't hit the curve there, use all that runoff. It's such a beautiful section when you get it right.
I think you could probably argue that pretty much everywhere on the Nürburgring links itself together and flows into sections, but I agree with you, Craig. That specific area of the racetrack, when you get it right, just one turn feeds into another. And look at this. Oh, so close coming off of the front straightaway here. Looks like Humphrey, Perez, as well as Horador, Ayuso, all involved in this battle here to complete lap number 1. So that's the number 2 car. Manuel moving up a spot. So he is going to go try to chase down Aaron Humphrey right in front of him. And this is a little bit further back in the field. This is 11th. This is Ruiz trying to make a move on what is Seamus. Power outbreaks him there into turn number 1. Looks like he will secure that move. Seamus not going to be able to do any sort of over-under here on this section of the GP circuit, but still got 32 minutes left. You can kind of take a break because the first lap is done. Take a little breather. Oh, man, we made it through the first one, didn't we?
Made it through the first one. Now you've got the second one. Has Valenteus just... I think Valenteus just did a little cheeky lift there because he realizes he is going to get overtaken. So just accept it down this here into the bridge. They come down into Tiergarten, and you can see Kundelis was unable to make that move. He is really good around here, and he's just having to just hold on. Valenteus would be happy to stay here just because of the way it goes. Timothy Reed now, is he going to try and set himself up for a move? He is not. I can also report Seb Tixier's day has gone from bad to worse to worser to the worstest because unfortunately he was in a big 4-5 car crash at Brüchen.
I can tell you that when it rains, it seems to pour on the racetrack, and we're watching Timothy Reed. He's going to try to make a move, and it's actually covered off by Zelinskis going into turn number 1. Saw Aramis just kind of move over towards the middle of the racetrack to persuade that number 12 not to take a dive bomb down the inside, and there was that little bit of a lockup as they were all trying to halt these big old Audi machines after hauling the mail down the front straightaway here. But this is an angry little group, all led by that number 30, about 6 or 7 cars long. And I have a feeling that this picture that we see out of the windshield of Kundelis right here, it's going to be a very familiar sight. These 3 drivers and these 3 cars seem very, very similar pace. It's just going to be kind of jockeying over which one is leading the group, and then on the final straightaway, I think that's when the fireworks are going to come out.
And that is the textbook reading of how all the races, most of the races have gone this week in this series. So we do wait to see if anyone's going to make the moves, especially you won't see it down here. Serrato, Krajcik, they're all having a little battle down into the foxhole and the compression. You can hit that curb a little bit there as Javier Olmo is hitting. Just don't want to overdo it there with these cars. You don't want to bottom out, and now finding every bit of corner he can. He's in a struggle with Javier. It's interesting. This is his first time around this track in a GTP. As we know, he's a very experienced GTO driver, and I think he almost knows how to drive this track like the back of his hand in a GTO. You were saying earlier, because you were doing the Lotus 49s, that is probably the toughest combo in iRacing, the Lotus 49s around this track. I would say the second toughest would be the Audi GTOs around this track. The GTPs have got it pretty easy, I feel.
The add of the aero definitely helps through some of the, so-called hairier sections, and then through here, it always, look at how hard you have to stand on the brakes to get the car stopped. But you're right, it seems like these GTP cars, at least when they're in the hands of a capable driver, they seem to kind of do whatever the driver wants. And once the driver wants to stop, well, guess what? It'll do it. You want to go real fast down that long straightaway, put your foot to the floor, and it'll do 200 plus depending on the wing settings. And yeah, just the GTP cars kind of just do everything that the driver wants. And this is the battle for what is 4th place on the racetrack. Von Hicks currently leading Mickey Friesen, Andreas Schuster, the caboose on this 3-car train. And this is coming up to that exact same section that we were just watching with Javier Del Olmo chasing in those GTP cars. And oh no, this is Javier Soto, the number 4 car, finds himself on his roof playing turtle.
Now this looks like it's coming down. This is the run up to the Mutt curve, aka bravery or courage, and you want to try and take as much as you can. Has he taken a bit too much here? Here comes the right. Is he going to be played on the left? Oh my word, and that's just an unfortunate moment. You can go side by side there, but you've got to have the commitment, and I think that was a bit too late to try and make that move there. I believe that was Aaron Humphrey.
Remember what I said earlier, is that passes that happen on the Nordschleife section here, that they kind of have to be coordinated. If both parties are not willing to go side by side, one of them usually ends up in a guardrail, and unfortunately we just saw that firsthand with Javier Soto, just a car to the inside and then really not able to do anything about it. And this is Seamus Power. Remember, we were watching him in that battle about a lap ago down into turn number 1. Well, now he has the number 26, Daniel Schulte, right behind him. Also, Brendan Lim right behind that. So it seems to be kind of a trend right now. Not only do we have kind of 2 cars battling for each other for a position, but it usually forms a 3-car pack.
Yeah, it usually forms the pack, and then also you'll see some of the drivers that don't set qualifying times, they start to move up, and Seamus Power, one of those drivers, didn't set a qualifying time, so he's looking to try and move his way up. Daniel Schultz right behind him, as you can see, and not a lot to go through there at Flatsgarden 2, but these 3 still are going through. Big change in Valentejas retaking the lead. Kundelis will go in 3rd, still he holds in 1st. Noel Lumber there, that is a little bit of a normal thing, I would say, Joey. Also, I just wanted to point back, look back at that Javier Soto incident. Aaron Humphrey clipped the grass, and I reckon that's what upset the apple cart there for Aaron. I don't think that was a malicious, well, it wasn't a malicious move, but I don't think that was a going for an on-purpose move there.
I think whenever you come and race in these vintage series, you always have extremely respectful racing, and it is incredibly tough. You're right, to get a pass done, and no malicious intent at all. And this is Daniel Schulte making his way around Seamus Power. We were watching him all over the gearbox of Seamus just a little bit earlier, and so now he's got a little bit of clean air. Seamus tucked in that draft there, tried to sneak around. I love that sign, "We brake for nobody," on that GTP there. That means he is hauling the mail, trying to continue his way up the order. And actually, Laust Olsen might have had a little bit of a hiccup, because now that 26 car of Daniel is right on the gearbox of the yellow and green with the blue front end here, as you got to stand on those brakes, get the car stopped. Daniel swinging out a little bit wide there, maybe just carried a little bit too much speed into that very, very slow turn one.
Yeah, you may not be able to see it in a moment. However, unfortunately, Laust has some damage to his right side of the car, which is hurting him a little bit. Aseo and Hiroda trying to make this move, dude. That's going to be a very interesting move. Sorry, it's Hiroda and Langdon. Is that Dustin Hiroda making a defense around the outside of the VLN hairpin? It is indeed. What a move that is to hold that position. Well, that's what you want to see. A nice little bit of racing. Fabian Youngblood right behind. He got some really good tickets to that show. Don't think that's the show he wants to watch, though. I think he doesn't want to see anything in front of him. He'd like to be ahead of these guys.
I'm curious over here, because Hiroda's slipped down a position from where he qualified. Langton is up a spot, and the car that we're riding on board with of Youngblood is kind of stayed even from where he qualified, but he's on the back of the pack. So when I read this, it tells me that maybe Dustin is a little bit of the cork in the bottle, but at the Nürburgring, that is A-okay, because just the amount of passing opportunities are so limited. As long as you don't make a mistake out there, you're generally A-okay. And this is the view from inside the third place car of Perez, chasing down Humphrey. And this actually, no, we're going to jump over to our GTO lead, because this has been changing around a lot. Valenteus has kind of been hanging on to it. Lundberg and Kundelis, though, they're all starting to get a little spicy.
They all started to open up a bit there. If we go back to that, they opened up, got down the Dottinger, they closed up once again. Going to be interesting to see that battle. Will Lundberg go for a late move here? One thing I didn't talk about, Joey, we always forget about it, with how wide and how different you could take this first corner. We always talk about making the overtake at the end of the Dottinger Höhe and up at Tiergarten. No, let's extend it a little bit. Let's treat it like Daytona here. You don't just make an overtake into turn one at Daytona. You set yourself up for the first horseshoe. That's kind of the situation here. You don't just make an overtake at the Tiergarten at the end. You make an overtake at the first corner.
That's usually how it works, and you got to use that slipstream all the way down, and especially in these big Audi bricks. You know, I kind of, they do look like a big old square brick, like a refrigerator to me is kind of how it looks like. But honestly, they're one of the coolest cars. I know it's kind of throwing them under the bus a little bit, but they are some of the coolest cars, especially with the big old turbochargers and the all-wheel drive system. If you've never driven them, I highly urge you to go out and do that. And then you look at the racing that they produce. It is just so dang cool, and I'm counting about 5, maybe 6 cars all lined up right here behind Zelinskis, which is 8th place. That includes Timothy Reed, David Blanco, Neil Kemp, Emerson Gaudin, and then really right behind that is Cam Porter, Gamek, Bello, and Haycock. So this is just one long train of some German cars about to go around the Nordschleife.
German cars around a German track, it's just the best feeling. Oh, I'd love to know how an Audi feels around what they call the BES/WEC chicane, aka the best chicane, that high-speed one, not the GP circuit chicane, which is that very slow, sharp, as you may remember. These Audis get to take a lot of speed through that corner, and now they get to come down into Hatzenbach. And again, look at that. Oh, he's having to do a little bit of an adjustment there, Joey, because just clipping the curve, even in these Audis, is such a challenge. It's so tough for them. And as they come through the final part of this, the end of Hatzenbach, now they get to use the curve, but it's just goes to show, I talk about the Nissans avoiding the curbs, the Audis have to really avoid it.
Yeah, and it's kind of surprising because you think with the sedan structure that they're able to be a little bit more aggressive, but it's just all in controlling the platform and how the car likes to be driven. If you don't kind of interact and do everything together with the car, well, it is going to disagree with you. And this is back to the lead battle, and the one difference that we're seeing is the number one car, Valenteus, has kind of escaped just a little bit. He's about 1 second up the road. Lundberg currently holding off Kundelis here, and I gotta wonder if maybe Noel is starting to slow up a little bit, or maybe he just kind of hopped over a curb like you were saying, upset the car a little bit. But what I wouldn't want to see if I was this green car of Kundelis is if that gap goes to over 1 second and Andreas can break that slipstream.
Well, Arturus is going to have to now think about the track. And the way a lot of these drivers will think about the track is don't think about making the move now. Make about not making the move 2 corners ahead. Make the move 25 corners ahead. In other words, the straight. And as they come down now, there's not a lot to come here as they're going to miss, and hit, and hit. I saw there from Kundelis. They will get to a section in a minute, in a few more corners, which is coming up to Mutka, we've seen it before. That is his best chance to make an overtake. And with how far Valentejas is starting to get away, and you can just see how far he is now as they come up to the bridge right before Exmol. You can see that Arturus, he has to make this overtake sooner rather than later, or a chance of victory will go away, because his pace is matching Valentejas right now.
Well, and they both did not get the corner exit that they needed to. Now, this right-hander is the more important of the two, which leads you up onto this uphill straightaway, and it looks like Laust Olsen has a problem. That is a shortened GTP car on both the front end and the back end. We're going to get a GSRC replay as we feed into the carousel section, and then through the bumpy back half here, uses the entry curb, and then just, I believe, slips out. Oh no, this was going out onto the front straightaway where you've got the hammer down, the tail stepped out, and Laust was along for the ride.
This is not good. I was expecting maybe a mistake there at the second carousel. He loses it. He tries to save it. Unfortunately, the only place to save it, and he gets hit again. The only place to save it, unfortunately, was the curb, and it just sent him out violently and nowhere for him to go. I can report Kundelis could not get past Lundberg as he came through that corner. Brendan Lim now, he's in his own little battle. This is the best thing about the Nürburgring. There are battles everywhere you look, Joey.
There's several going on in GTP, even more in GTO, but you're right, Brendan Lim is having a great race, and Seamus Power, remember, he's kind of been in the thick of it in the previous laps as well. We have gone past the halfway point here, so only 18 minutes remaining here in the IMSA Vintage race at the Nürburgring as we check back in on this battle for what is 4th place in GTO. Currently, Mickey Friesen in that purple number 20, holding off Von Hicks as well as Andreas Schuster here. And this is into that section of the racetrack that we were making the comment on earlier, Craig. It just flows so well.
It's fantastic. They're through Etzbach, and now they'll come down into Brunchen. And now, again, don't want to use too much of the curb there. You want to try and use that exit there. Get on that curb a little bit more, but it's so tough. You're trying to be so safe around here. And again, up here, you want to try and do that. Now into Flatsgarten. We haven't actually seen these GTOs go. You may have a little bit of a bump, and oh yeah, that's never comfortable in any car you do that. In some cars, especially these GTOs, you're having a brake before the bump there, Joey. If you brake after the bump, I think you may be getting a trip in the kiddie litter.
Yeah, you know, it's tough. You just kind of have to take what the car will give you. And something I'm starting to notice on more than one of these Audi machines, and it might be the reason why Kundelis can't get by Lundberg, is you notice the front bumper damage. Now, this isn't from the cars going up and physically making contact with another car. You mentioned those curbs and having to stay off of them, not only in the GTPs, but especially the GTOs. Well, these cars, they ride so low, and these curbs are so big here around the Nürburgring that if you get too aggressive, you can actually smack that bumper on the curb, and then all of a sudden, you've got aero damage, and right here is where you don't want that aero damage along that huge front straightaway where top speed matters.
Top speed matters every time you go here, and that looks like a mistake. Oh, in the background was Solinkas, but we're looking at Nicky Friesen as he keeps on passing with Van Hixie. Schuster's right behind as well. I can tell you in the old days, back in the 24 hours, you would literally have a car with damage on the front on iRacing, just with how much you attack the curves in the GT3s. GTO's a little bit different, but a little twitch there from Johan Van Hixie, just holding him up. He can do it. Also, Lundberg Kundala's bunched up together once again in the lead. Everyone's bunching up. We're not seeing the overtakes at this moment. I think the drivers are getting hit by the wind and also the dirty air that these cheese blocks are starting to give.
I was thinking about the dirty air earlier, and yes, it does affect these cars. I didn't expect it to necessarily affect them as much as what I've seen, and this is our leader, Alexander Van de Sante, and there has really been no looking back ever since he stood on the gas at the green flag. Didn't even have a threat down into turn number 1, and I'm pretty sure he's just turned off the mirrors, turned off the relative, and he's just out there doing qualifying laps all by himself out there. And actually, looks like we had a little bit of a problem. Catch this GSRC replay with Fabian Jungbluth. Oh no, remember, he was hanging out in the 5th or 6th position. He's the right-hander, caught that curb, and oh my goodness, look at that car control save. It kills all the momentum, but he kept it off the wall.
How? Okay, brake work. For those that are unaware about brake work, you have to get the exit properly, and that's what he's trying to do. He got on the throttle a bit too much, went over the curb. That takes some impressive skill in any car to stop that car. We talk about slowing it down. Yes, you've got to slow it down. Well, hang on 1 second, Solinkas. He's going to try and make a move right here. He's going to try and make that before the chicane, and Timothy realizes it and holds up. You don't see that a lot in a Nürburgring race. But that stop, my jaw was on the floor there, Joey. To stop that car from that speed on that corner from near death, fantastic.
This pack right here is extremely impressive. So it starts with Zelinskas here in 8th place. Then we've got Timothy Reed, but I'm counting about 10 cars that these Audi GTOs are just lined up. Look at this. It looks like the opening lap through the first third of the section here on the Nordschleife. And they're all still battling for position. Yeah, they're wearing a couple battle scars, but these guys have begun to having a ton of fun. It's always best when you're playing on the playground with all of your mates out there. And I mean, what better picture-perfect opportunity than the Nürburgring? And here they are, all catching air over the jump.
Joey, is there anything better than watching a string of cars snake through a tight section like we just saw? That is just one of those things that you should take a clip of and you put it in every type of video, not as a highlight video, but a promotion video. It's just beautiful. And to get it now is fantastic. Solinkas Reed bunched up together once again. And I don't think Timothy's going to make a move down in the foxhole. Never say never. He was looking, as you start to see. If he makes a mistake here, he doesn't just take himself and Solinkas out. He's got a chance of taking out 5 other drivers. That's not a good thing. That is not a good thing, and that is not what he wants to try and do here.
You made that comment, and I'm going to go ahead and knock on wood over here because they're going up to a section that these cars are in right now, which the guardrails are only about 5 to 10 feet off of either side of the track. So you're right. I have a feeling that Timothy Reed and that entire group is going to need to keep it clean up there, or else a few are going to be collected. We had a problem with one of our front runners, one of our GTP championship contenders here. This is Dustin Heroder. He had a problem on the racetrack, and this is off of the front straightaway here, so you're going to have to get hard on the brakes. I wonder if a curb helped out with Dustin, and sure enough, there it was, jumping over it, upsetting the platform, and around it went.
Yeah, like I said, if it's grey, it's okay. That's not one of those you can really go through. But I think it was clear he was taking a bit too much speed there. And while I was talking about the gears, you still have to try and take the gears properly around here. So it just goes to show what can happen. Van der Sande, 5 seconds ahead. He has had lap times faster than Manuel Barres behind him. However, he has been picking up the off-tracks, and as you know, Joey, an off-track means a lap isn't valid. While he's faster, legally and officially, he isn't.
And it's kind of flirting with danger when you're picking up those off-tracks. Maybe not so much on other tracks where you've got these paved runoffs, but I mean, look at, you got curbs, you got guardrails, and even through the carousel that these GTOs are driving right now, you just have to be inch perfect around here, so that way you don't end up in a guardrail. And if you're picking up those 1Xs, that usually means you're flirting with those track limits wherever it may be. So Alex van der Sande has a terrific pace. He just has to keep it together for about another lap and a half as we continue to watch this GTO battle. Now, something that I was noticing, Noel here in second place, he fell off the back of Andreas a few times, up to 1.2, up to 1.4 seconds at some points, but then was able to close it right back up, and there's a little bit of an off running wide. So I've noticed that our second place car, the number 3 Audi, maybe not as fast through the middle section, but then handles real good down the straightaway. I wonder if there's an aero difference as we have some problems in GTP.
That looks like one of the second place drivers. That's Aaron Humphrey. Is that Aaron Humphrey? Or is that Barres? This is some big issues here coming down, and they're coming down now. They're going to hit Swedenkrantz. And this is Aaron Humphrey. He's going to come over this ridge. Now, can he control it over the ridge? The car gets a little bit light. He brakes for Arenberg. He's braking, he's braking, he's braking. You can always see that car in front is losing it. No time to make a reaction. What time do you have to make a reaction there? There is none.
And you saw just the car in front of him start to hop. The platform got all sorts of upset, and once the car spun right in front of him, you're right, there was just absolutely nowhere to go for him. That was the number 19, I believe, of Ayuso. Just unfortunate because, once again, not a malicious incident by any means, but it's part of racing, and sometimes it doesn't act very nicely. And am I seeing even more damage on the front end, on the front fender of Kundelis now?
You are indeed. You are indeed. But that shouldn't affect it too much. I think that's just going to be a little bit of just cosmetic damage more than aero damage. And Kundelis is not going for this move in. It's going to be interesting. They're going to cross the line with just under 8 minutes to go, but they're going to have to go around twice because of where Van der Sande is. Is there going to be a move here? Look at everyone all tucked in together. No. This is the story of the last 3 laps here, Joey. They're just holding it together. Expect a move, not next lap. It will be the final lap. And because of the difference in where these drivers are, we're going to get almost a whole 8 minutes with these GTOs at the end of the race.
So, Craig, you made the comment earlier that you thought that maybe Valenteus was lifting off on the straightaway as we watch Lundberg make the lunge down to the inside there in turn number 1 for the lead in GTOs. It's actually going to be fought back hard with Valenteus now on the inside here. The number 1 car defends the lead from that black and red number 3, but that was one of the first opportunities later in the race. But back to my point, you were saying Valenteus was kind of lifting off of the straightaway. Well, I was watching the top end speed. He was doing 165. All of a sudden, he went down to 163, and there is nobody in front of him. You're right. There's definitely some drafting chess games going on.
And it makes sense. When you've got Bridge, which is the kink right there, it's actually got a name, but nobody uses it. It's the Antonius Bucci. You use that kink right before you go down the hill to Tiergarten. In these GTOs, you can't really make a move there. So if he's slowing down, he's telling Lundberg, you can't do anything. The only way you're going to make a move here is to make a lunge. As we see these battle is going on, is to make a lunge into Tiergarten, which nobody wants to make a move into Tiergarten until the last lap, where you literally roll the bones to see what you're going to get. That is what I think is going to happen here, but that is some really heads-up play there from Vantages. And one thing I've got to point out, Joey, you mentioned about how tight the walls are here. Officially, this is a road. This is a street circuit.
That also means just how the concrete is built with the crown on the surface and everything. You have to take it all into play and how you approach it all. And here's these GTO cars. And I do think that, I mean, when they cross the line, they should have a whole nother lap left as long as our leader, Van de Sant, does not catch him. And I just don't see how he's actually going to be able to get up there and do it. And oh my goodness, this is a nice little battle that has developed. And it once again includes Daniel Schulte and Seamus Power. Brendan Lim is that purple car, and then really the fourth car in line is not actually for position. That is Jack Wells. He's a couple of laps down, so is kind of the top three here in the GTP that is all arguing for this position as actually our leader. Alexander Van de Sant comes out onto the front straightaway and takes the white flag from Barney, so we'll have one lap to go with these GTP machines.
We're about to go free wide very shortly. Free wide they go. And Seamus Power's going to make this move, but he's still got Brendan Lim side by side with him, Joey. And down they go. These cars have got the downforce. They can do it there at the Little King. But no, Brendan decides, I don't have the run. He had a little bit of a wobble there. That was all set up because Seamus had a wobble. Coming out of the second carousel, he got off it a bit too early. It upset the car a bit. He loses out, and that small mistake there from Brendan costs him half a second. But Seamus, with the commitment there, really key to take that move. That is just going to show you how much speed you can take with these cars and how much time you can break, as Daniel Schulte almost went into the back there.
I'm just really impressed seeing these large groups of battles at the end of a 40-minute race. We typically see things kind of spread out or one or two cars battling with each other, but this is a terrific fight, and it's not just in GTP, but GTO as well. And so these cars right here have a whole nother lap remaining. And remember the mental fatigue that all of these drivers have been in so far. You've attacked the Nürburgring for 5 laps already. You're on lap number 6. You got to put it together one more time around. And not only that, but you also have to attack the car in front. And if you don't, you're going to get attacked from anybody behind you.
Yeah, any mistake here is going to lose you a couple positions. We've already seen that with the like of Youngblood making that save. Van de Sant, I'm knocking on wood. Remember, you haven't got any wood, you knock on your head. Van de Sant is keeping it nice and cool, calm, and collective here. I am looking at the map, and I know I said you're not going to get multi-class here. He might have to navigate some back markers in the GTO field. That shouldn't hold him up too much. He's got a 5-second lead almost. It shouldn't, in theory, hold him up, but he won't be getting anywhere near this. Friesen, Van Hixie having a nice little battle. They'll come down in a moment to Mutkurv. Who is going to have the bravery? Again, Van Hixie is going to hold on to this.
As we watch this, I just want to make a report because we've been watching Daniel Schulte. He had a spin and ended up in the guardrail himself. So unfortunate end to his race as these GTO machines continue to climb up the hill. Full hammer down, just try to carry as much speed as you possibly can until you hit this section right here that approaches quite quickly, and then into the carousel it feeds. You gotta be so careful to slow the car down enough here, because if you carry too much speed into this section, which, oh, that was so flirting with hopping out over the limit there, it will spit you out.
Yeah, you don't want to be hopping over there. It can actually upset these cars and cause you damage. I've actually seen in the real world, actually, cars getting taken out because of the rain there. And thankfully, it's a dry day here today. Seamus Power almost got to the back of Serato there as he's really trying to find ways to try and make this move. Can he find anything down into Callanhard very shortly? Nothing. Just not close enough, and it just brings into that whole forte. You've got to make the move on the straights around here, because just look at how much that dirty air is upsetting him. He can't take the speeds and the angles he wants at these corners. It's really showing it, but when he gets to miss, hit, miss, he's hitting everything but the last one. I gotta give a shooter to these guys. It's called miss, hit, miss. We've had everything but miss, hit, miss today.
Look, Craig, I've learned that whenever I say one of these sim racers is going to do something, they always prove me wrong. So don't take it personally out there, because that's exactly what they do. And this is our leader, Alex Van de Sant, just climbing up this back straightaway here. Cruise through that incredibly fast kink left-hander, and I kind of consider this a little bit more the halfway point. He's going down the hill from now on to complete the lap, and there is that magical lap traffic you were talking about, and you're right, it shouldn't affect him too much. However, if he is not decisive with it, Perez is only 4 seconds in the rear, so he's got to get around these Audis. He can't let them hold him up too much.
And you can see a little bit of miscommunication there, as it looked like Nungel was actually letting Van der Sant through. He was unaware of it. So that just caused a little small hold up there, cost him half a second. Nothing to worry about. These guys, we're having a little bit of an IndyCar weave down there at the moment, as you see Lundberg and Valentejas and Kundelis. They're not bunched up together at the moment, and it wouldn't surprise me if they stay not bunched up until they break hard for Tiergarten. They've got to go one more time, and just look at these gaps here, because there is Lundberg. You saw Kundelis, he's not right up to the back of these cars. Is that a strategy, or is he starting to feel the effects of just wearing out the tires?
We're about to find out, because these cars right here are taking their white flag from Barney, so our leaders in GTO will get a whole nother lap around this place, and even this battle for what is 5th place a little bit further back will also get a whole nother lap. We saw that green car of Kundelis lock up there into turn number 1, so you gotta keep it clean, especially with just 1 lap to go if you want to claim that checkered flag.
Again, into the first corner, nothing given. And now nothing taken. They're just holding in. So you know the plan here. They realize that it is just a waiting game. Every car now in these battles know that there is no point trying to make a move here, because you've been together for 40 minutes. For the GTOs, it's definitely over 40 minutes. They've got to stay together. Alex Van der Sant doesn't need to stay together, though. He is on his own at the moment.
Well, he just has a GTO right in front of him. No big deal. Actually, Perez has closed it up to only 3 seconds. So even if he kind of slow pokes it around this Audi, he should be able to claim a checkered flag. Dives down to the inside. No big deal at 182 miles an hour. Stand on the brakes. Down a few gears for the last time. Navigate these unexpectedly high curbs, and now look through the windshield. He sees Barney waving that checkered flag. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, Alexander Van de Sant.
Manuel Perez is going to come across the line. He'll take the P2. We'll wait for Ruiz to come by. He's done a fantastic drive. We haven't talked about Ruiz today, Joey. 11 places gained. I don't think he was somebody that set a time lap in qualifying, and he just set the fastest lap of the race, by a second. Ruiz is going to come across the line with a respectable time. These three still battling, though. Can Seamus Power make a very light move here? Not going to be able to. Serato will hold on to P7. Really nice battles at the line.
I think I saw about 0.05 of a second separating Serato and Power there at the checkered flag, but we still have nearly a whole lap for this GTO battle, so don't go anywhere. We're still settling out the podium, and this is the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th as well, so call it 2 3-packs, and plus maybe even a 6-pack a little bit further back, because Emerson Gaudin has Timothy Reed all over the back, David Blanco, as well as Cam Porter, so we've got a lot to still settle here at the Nürburgring in this GTO class.
I think some of these drivers will be looking for a 6-pack of their favorite alcoholic beverage after this race. It takes a lot out of you to drive this track. And then you think to these GTOs, they've got to hit the clutch. They've got to blip to do the downshift. They are really struggling here. Here's the battles at the moment. Valentejas, Lundberg, Kundelis. Friesen, Van Hixie, Schuster. We're looking at this battle right now with Timothy Reed, Emerson Golden, and the others, and Blancos with Porter. They're trying to catch up. Reed looking to try and make a move. A little bit of contact, not getting through. Everywhere you look in this GTO field, there are battles upon battles. I gotta catch my breath.
And if we draw back to how Timothy Reed was racing, he was definitely one of the more aggressive cars that we had been seeing all day long. And so we'll just have to keep an eye on every single one of these GTO battles. And right now, this is the closest one. Von Hicks has actually got a mirror full of Schuster. Schuster's that third car in line, so I think that Friesen is enjoying a little bit of pressure relieved because Schuster all over the back here as we head down the hill. This is a tricky little area. Get on the brakes early. You see the flames already spitting out the pipes there. A little bit of a lockup from the number 11, but all of the Audis make it through the train, make it through that tight section nice and tidy here. This is another tricky one. You gotta nail the exit at the bottom of the hill.
Now the exit, and then you come up to X mode. Make sure you keep it in a higher gear than you expect. You wouldn't think so, being you're going uphill. But once you tap on the brakes, it is almost flat out there. You don't need to wait for the apex to get back on the throttle. And down into the louder links they go, and now into brake work. Now, if any of these drivers want to make a move before the final straight, now's the opportunity to get a good run. And we did see a little bit of a slide there from Van Hixie. I don't think Schuster's going to get the run there because they have a little bit of a double toe. We've got to get back to the leaders, though, because they're through mud curve there, the bravery corner. They have navigated it for the final time, and it's still the same three with Valentejas, Lundberg, and Kundelis.
I gotta worry a little bit if I'm this lead car of Valentejas because we've seen those other two be able to draft up so rapidly, and there's been the chess games on the front straightaway. I would feel very vulnerable if I was the lead car going out onto that monster straight, knowing that the draft is worth upwards of 5, 6, I've even seen 7 miles an hour difference, especially with the top three cars when they're closing in at the end of the straightaway. So unless Valentejas has maybe something up his sleeve, some speed in the back half of this racetrack, which you very well can do. We've made the comment about how well it flows through these sweeping left, right, lefts, down and up and over these cresting hills. So if he can run away a little bit from this second and third battle, that's what he's going to need, that buffer on the straightaway.
Key number is 1.2. You get a gap over 1.2, you've pulled away from the slipstream here. That's what he's trying to do. The gap is 0.9. It's slowly there. And you start to see that this is maybe where he starts to turn it up a notch. He's gone into that gear that nobody else has. It's the gear that Valentejas likes to run at all the time. And now he knows he has to get serious. He's gone into LeBron in the playoffs mode, where he knows it's time to turn it up. And a small mistake there from Lundberg. That might be all she wrote.
There was 2 mistakes that we saw recently out of Lundberg. First was understeering, missing an apex, and then he got way wide on one of those corners just a handful of turns ago, and all of a sudden 1.4 seconds is the gap to Valentejas at the worst possible section. All you've got pretty much is the mini carousel and then a short right-hander to lead you out onto the front straightaway. It is up to 1.5 seconds between Lundberg and Valentejas. So Andreas might have pulled one out of his back pocket here, but the race is far from over. Here comes the draft pack. Does Kundelis have what it takes to overtake for second?
He's definitely going to make the move for second here, but I think the race is done. Andreas Schuster in the background, has had a mistake, so he's out there running there for those battles for 4th and 5th. But now we look to see what Kundelis can do on this straight. He's not close enough. Lundberg is actually catching Valentejas, but it's going to be all for nothing. Don't tell me the gap is going down to less than a second. He's not going to catch Valentejas. Can Kundelis make this move? He's going to have to do it here into Tiergarten. Late braking, can't make it.
He tried, he thought about it, and can he slide it up the inside? No, it's not going to happen. So the number 1 car that started on pole position, Andreas Valentejas, holds off the 2 other hard-charging Audi GTOs and claims the win here at the Nürburgring.
Meanwhile, in the background, Van Hixie made the move before they even got up to the top. Speeds hit down the Dottinger Hoa, and he's able to get that 4th place away from Mickey Friesen. Not much he could do when they got up to speed. I believe he had a mistake coming onto the Dottinger. That will be all she wrote. He will come home in 5th. Schuster will be in 6th. And we do have more battles going on, because this is Cam Porter and David Blanco.
He's getting up the inside here, just a typical slipstream move. So Cam Porter now up 4 positions as he slides by that number 40, that white and blue machine. They're just going to stand on the brakes, down through the gears in these Audi GTO machines, spit the flames out the side, and come out the other end onto the front straightaway. Cam Porter will finish in 11th. Right in front of him, Timothy Reed will claim a nice top 10 for himself, and the rest of the GTO cars are feeding through. This was another really tight battle here. Neil Kemp was able to hold off Josh Brain, as well as Ian Haycox, and Jamie Hummel-Smith, as well as the others, are going to round out of the final few turns, cross the finish line. And what we are going to do right now is take a quick break, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with your official results and any post-race interviews. what a burner of a race here at the Nürburgring. It was dominated by one car, the number 7 of Alexander Van de Sant, but we had battles all over the place, and on the screen are your official results. Manuel Perez finishing in 2nd place, Hamilton Ruiz in 3rd, Sean Langton in 4th, Fabian Jungbluth up to 5th, Ivan Ayuso here in 6th, Fernando Serrato in 7th, Seamus Power 8th, Brendan Lim 9th, Javier Del Olmo rounds out the top 10 here, and then across the page we've got Dustin Heroder dropping his way down to 11th, Martin Krejcik in 12th, Daniel Schulte, who had his hands full all race long, finishing in 13th after a late race incident, Antonio Alvarez 14th, Robert Plumley 15th, Aaron Humphrey 16th, AJ Roper 17th, and then the rest of the cars here, including Knopfler, Wells, Olsen, Glesed, Soto, and Grau. Unfortunately, they did not make it to the checkered flag today, but that brings up our GTO class.
GTO was very competitive today. Valentejas holding off the late charge of Lundberg, who came home in 2nd, and Kundelis, who was in 3rd. And then Van Hixie had a nice battle with Mickey Fries and Andreas Schuster as they finished 5th and 6th respectively. And then it's Doug Cloud there in 7th with Salinkas in 8th. Another battle with Golden and Reed 9th and 10th. And we go over the page. Cam Porter and David Blancos in their own battle in 11th and 12th. And then more, see, look how close these battles are in groups with Neil Kemp and Josh Brain 13th, 14th, Ian Haycox 15th, Jamie Hamel-Smith will be 16th, Leon Haroff will be 17th, Corbin Pollock will be 18th, and Roman Bello will be 19th. Matt Garbachin finishes a lap down as he was lapped beforehand, as was Neil Timmerman in 21st, Kike Menko in 22nd, Mark Gamak in 23rd, and then the cars that had to retire early, Paddy Sproul in 24th, Sujar in 25th, Shepard 26th, Gonzalez in 27th, and as I said at the start of the race, Seb Tixia finished last in 28th.
And it looks like we've got one of our GTO finishers on the podium that is going to be joining us here in the commentary booth. Arturas Kundelis, how do you feel after completing the race at the Nürburgring?
Yeah, hi guys. I'm absolutely exhausted. I just really wanted to say a few words about the whole draft train that we've been having during the entire race. It may have looked a little dull as Audrus was clearly the dominant force here, but I tell you what, my heart is still pounding. It's absolutely insane to just stay within the draft of him, and he strategically relaxes a little bit during the first half of the lap, and then from carousel onwards, he absolutely slams it down. And you feel his authority right there, you know, and he knows very well that the only way to break away from us is to do it before the Dottinger straight. So my God, every one of the 6 laps was just a nightmare. I almost had tunnel vision not to make a mistake or a misshift or anything, just to stay with him.
Well, it sounds like you are incredibly happy with the 3rd place performance here at the Nürburgring. I have to ask you, I noticed that there is a lot of damage starting to pick up on the front of the car, I assume from jumping over the curbs. Do you think that maybe hurt your straight line speed in order to potentially attack Lundberg at the end of it?
Yeah, that's true. But the final 2 laps, I was losing like 3, 4, 5 kph on the straight, and yeah, I don't know if the other guys picked up any damage. I think they did, but basically, as soon as you land a little bit sideways on the Pflanzgarten jump, that's it. You know, you break your car, and if you do it for the 6 times in a row, you feel it at the end. So I wish this was something iRacing could take care of, because it's been hurting the races a little bit in the Nürburgring Endurance Series as well. And over here, I also don't really like to see that. I would like to fight, you know, fair play to the end.
I definitely hear you on that one, but you had a tremendous performance here. Is there anybody that helps you get it done on the racetrack? Anybody you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, just first of all, the Camel community, the Lithuanian guys from Slow and Confused team who are either driving together as Andrius Schlumber does, or just watching and supporting. So yeah, shout out to them and to the entire Camel GT or IMSA Vintage community, and you guys for making it happen. Thank you.
That was Arturas Kundelis coming home in the podium positions today in that GTO class, and I believe that Craig has caught up with Cam Porter.
Yep, I've got the ever fortunate Cam Porter here. Cam, we only caught on the broadcast the end of your race, which was a very tight battle with David Blanco, but it looked like all race you were having battles as you were trying to slowly climb up through the field. It looked like it was a bit of a hoot out there for you.
Yeah, it was a really enjoyable race today. Shout out to all the guys that I was racing close with on the track today. We got train going for the entire race. Nobody was making any mistakes, really, except for Mark Gamick, who unfortunately overcooked it just before going up the mountain. And unfortunately took himself out of the race. But everyone else was just on their game today, and every position was really hard fought. And kudos to the guys that good show and great race with today.
It was good to watch everywhere. And of course, one of the things that we saw, especially in the GTOs, there were groups on groups on groups. So all race, you were in a group. You weren't on your own, and you were either catching a group or you were just staying in a group. How does the mentality change when you're in a group of cars? Because ideally, we want to hot lap the Nürburgring. But now you've got a car in front of you, you've got two cars in front of you. How does that change your mentality?
You really have to be patient. I think that's the main thing. A fellow racer friend of mine said, "You race the track here, you don't race other cars." So, yeah, although you do have to keep in mind that if you're racing close with somebody, you gotta brake a little bit earlier so not to rear end them and stuff. And hopefully they'll give you the same courtesy. And really, I feel like there's only a couple of safe spots to make a legitimate pass at this track. And obviously the Dodge straight is one of them, and maybe the front straight. But that's about it. So you really have to try to set up a pass and just be patient and wait to try to get your chance.
So we now head off. Well, you'll probably be heading off to have a nice lunch/dinner and a nice long rest. But we now have to keep our eyes moving forward, because next week we go from a very tight and old track to another old track that's tight and twisty, but not as long. It's Interlagos next week. What are your thoughts going into that race?
I think I have pretty good luck at Interlagos. I enjoy the track, and I feel like there's opportunity for passing because there's a couple of really long straights there that you can maybe get a draft pass going. So I'm looking forward to Interlagos, of course. I look forward to racing IMSA Vintage every week, especially when it's broadcast on GSRC.
He's doing the plugs, and I was going to say I love Interlagos for no reason other than the highlights we had last time. Cam, it was great talking to you. Unfortunately, didn't get to see a lot of that battling, but it looked like on the replays they were looking fantastic. That, Joey, was Cam Porter, who finished in the midfield. I have lost his position on my marker. Cam Porter, who finished in the GTOs.
Finishing 11th back there in the GTO class. Always enjoy having Cam Porter, as well as his brother, always kind of join us for a lot of these vintage series. And I want to say thank you to the team today, Craig, Adam, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media website and merchandise store. And also, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. The next race is Interlagos, Saturday, May 4th at 1 p.m. Eastern. And be sure to check out all of the other broadcasts listed here on the channel. Until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.